Nehemiah, who's one of my brothers, came to visit me with some other men who had just arrived from Judah. I asked them about the Jews who had returned there from captivity and about how things were going in Jerusalem. They said to me, "Things are not going well for those who return to the province of Judah. They are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down and the gates have been destroyed by fire." When I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. "Oh Lord, please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those of us who delight in honoring you. Please grant me success today in making the king favorable to me. Put it into his heart to be kind to me." In the 20th year of King Xerxes' reign, I was serving the king's wine. I had never before appeared sad in his presence, so the king asked me, "Why are you looking so sad? You don't look sick to me. You must be deeply troubled." Then I was terrified, but I replied, "Long live the king. How can I not be sad? For the city where my ancestors are buried is in ruins, and the gates have been destroyed by fire." Then the king asked, "Well, how can I help you?" With a prayer to the God of heaven, I replied, "If it pleases the king, if you are pleased with me, your servant, send me to Judah to rebuild the city where my ancestors are buried." The king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked, "How long will you be gone? When will you return?" After I told him how long I would be gone, the king agreed to my request. So I arrived in Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Look how poverty and racism, gentrification, poor economic opportunities. Look how sin has destroyed the walls of the city that we call home. Look how mass incarceration and injustice. Look how the influence of the devil has destroyed the wall of the city that we call home. Although I was born in Babylon, my bloodline is reared in Jerusalem. And although being born in captivity in Babylon, my heart sits in Jerusalem. My bloodline is reared in Jerusalem. And for the first time in my entire life, I find myself home in Jerusalem. And what I've learned is that home is not where you're born, it's where your heart is. And Jerusalem has my heart. The first time my brother came to the servant chamber and told me about the destruction of the wall and the burning of the gates in Jerusalem, the first thing I did after I cried was pray. Because I know that in order to make an impact in your community, it starts with prayer. Before you call on the county or city commissioners, you got to pray. Before you blame the judicial system or the educational system, you got to pray. Before we make a real change in a city or a community, you got to pray. Why? Because prayer still works. Because there's still power in prayer. Because prayer still changes things. Because prayer is still powerful and effective. Because the fervent prayers of the righteous still avail this much. So I prayed. Even if it meant praying by myself, I prayed. Even if it meant waking up before the sun rose and sun kissed the earth, I prayed. So I prayed. And then when I entered into the presence of the king, my heart was heavy and my face was sad, but my request was heard. When I entered into the presence of the king, he heard my request. And this is King Artaxerxes. This is the king that was the son of King Xerxes, who was married to Queen Esther. This is King Artaxerxes, who lived a life of peace but murdered his way to the top. And when I entered the presence of this king, my request was heard. This is King Artaxerxes, who's a mere man. So this is King Artaxerxes, but then there's the King of Kings. That's Jesus. You know, the one that was created in the likeness and the image of God, Jesus, the one that showed up at the battle when Jacob thought that he was just wrestling with an angel, Jesus. You know, the one that popped up in the fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Jesus. Or maybe you know the Jesus that made a way for you when you didn't have no way. Or maybe you know the Jesus that you were able to call when no one else was answering. You know Jesus, the one that brought comfort in discomfort or uncomfortable situations. It was Jesus. And certainly if Artaxerxes, that king, can hear my request, then Jesus can hear your request. You just got to be in his presence. When I entered the presence of the king, I just asked him, can I go home to Jerusalem and rebuild the wall of my city? And since the king was in a given mood, I went ahead and asked him, can I get letters to the governors that will ensure and grant me safety on this safe journey? Well, since the king was in a given mood, I just went ahead and asked for a second letter, a letter that would ensure that I could get all the wood and timber that I needed to rebuild the beams of the wall and also to build a house for myself. Because you should never give to the community what you don't have at home. If you don't have love at home, you can't give love to the community. The community should never ask for your light bill money, but in fact, you should sow so that you in return get enough to take care of the light bill money. You should never give to the community what you don't first have at home. So I asked the king, can I get a letter to ensure that I have the wood and timber to rebuild the beams of the wall and to build a house for myself? And because I had the gracious hand of God on my life, the king granted me everything that I needed. So I took off to Jerusalem. Sad because I knew about the destruction of Jerusalem, but full of zeal because this would be an opportunity to go back home where my ancestor had talked about all my life and rebuild the wall. So I took off to Jerusalem, and I've arrived. I'm here in Jerusalem, the city that my ancestors have talked about all my life. I'm in Jerusalem. I've arrived. I'm here in Jerusalem, and I've come to rebuild the wall of my community. But everybody's not happy. Everybody's not pleased. Everybody's not thrilled. In fact, two men, one named Sanballat and the other named Tobiah, when they heard of my plans to come to Jerusalem to rebuild the wall, they got angry. They got mad. They were upset. But the funny thing is, they were not mad because I came to Jerusalem. They were mad because I came to help the people in Jerusalem. Have you ever noticed that some people will smile in your face and clap their hands and celebrate your individual accomplishments, but then they'll dog you the moment that you start impacting other people's lives? See, you're a good coach whenever it's just about winning ball games. But the moment that winning ball games becomes secondary to you impacting and empowering the lives of young women, now there's a problem. Oh, you're a good pastor as long as you're following the standard that we've set in our traditional area. You're a good pastor until you start impacting and touching the lives of young people, and now you stole the kids. Isn't it interesting that sometimes people will celebrate you when you're just doing individualistic stuff, but the moment that you start impacting lives, that's when Sanballat and that's when Tobiah shows up. I'm in Jerusalem because I want to impact the lives of those around me. I came to Jerusalem to rebuild the wall in my city. And Sanballat and Tobiah, as I look at my measurements, they were upset and they were angry. But after being here for several days, I thought about the proverb that my grandpa told me one time. That if you work hard, that brings profit. But if it's mere talk, that leads to poverty. So since I'm here, I've been working. What's the point in talking about it when you can be about it? So since you're here, you might as well work. Since you're here, you might as well give your time. You might as well give your energy. Since you're here, you might as well give your efforts. You might as well give your 10%. Since you're here, you might as well work. Since you're here, you might as well help me impact lives and rebuild the wall. Since you're here, you might as well work with me. I took time to get settled in. And then 3 days later, I was ready to work. So the first thing I did was choose some good people. I didn't tell them what my plans were. I just asked anybody that wanted to come along to come along. But what I've learned is that the tale of true partners are those that will follow you when they don't even know the plan and direction. But to my surprise, only a few people came. But I learned that everybody you think can handle your vision can't really handle it. So only a few of us came because many couldn't handle the vision. But here was the thing. Sometimes when you look back in the rearview mirror of life, you will notice that there's only a few that's following you because everybody can't go where God is trying to take you. So I showed up in Jerusalem and God told me, just take the ones that came along with you. So we set out to inspect the damaged walls. I didn't tell the elected officials, they didn't know what I was doing. I didn't tell any of the religious leaders, they didn't know what I was doing. Only thing I was concerned about was inspecting the wall, because you should always go out and inspect your next move. Because sure enough, there's a devil and there's a hater. There's a devil for every level. So before you make your next move, make sure you inspect the wall. But then the time was right for me to tell everybody in Jerusalem what I was getting ready to do. The time had came, so I told everybody in Jerusalem what my plans were. I told them that Jerusalem is in trouble, that the wall has been torn down. I told them that the gates had been burned, that Jerusalem was in trouble. I told them that our city was in debt. I told them that our city was losing families because of poor economic opportunities. I told them that our city was losing its men because of the penal system and probation. I told them that our city was losing our young people to sex and drugs. Our city is in trouble and the walls have been torn down. We're losing. But I began to think back over my encounter with the king. And I told him, but I have been graced by God. Because God said he'll raise up another generation. We have already gotten the approval of the king and everything we need, because he said, I'll supply all of your needs according to my riches and glory. So I come to ask the people, can we rebuild the wall? When the time was right, I told him everything that I had planned. Can we rebuild the wall? Can we bring back the wall? Can we restore the wall? And family, Hazelhurst, Denton, Baxley, Graham, Snipesville, Jessup, Hinesville, Vidalia, Lowndes, Douglas, Statesboro, Swainsboro, that is our Jerusalem. And the question that I got to ask you, family, is can we restore Jerusalem? Because our Jerusalem, the walls have been burned down with poverty and poorness. Our walls have been destroyed with welfare and single parenting. Our walls have been destroyed with poor economics and bad leadership. Our walls have been destroyed with racism and classism. Our walls have been destroyed with injustices and mass incarceration. Our walls have been destroyed with ageism and generational differences. Our walls have been destroyed with Republican versus Democrat. And I just want to know, is there anybody in Jerusalem that don't mind helping me restore the walls? Because family, our walls have been torn down, and there may be some confusion, there may be some haters, there may be some naysayers, but do I got 50 people in here right now that don't mind helping me rebuild the wall? Family, it's work time. And I just need a couple people as I close out this thought and close out this message. You've seen the illustration the best way that I can illustrate it. And Nehemiah is no different than James Earl Cray and some of the other leaders in this city. That our city has been destroyed, not literally but figuratively. Our streets have been taken over. The enemy has influenced our area, our region, not just Hazelhurst, but our entire region. And the question is there anybody that's willing to get behind Nehemiah? Everybody won't come because everybody can't fit, but is there anybody that's willing to get behind Nehemiah? So when Nehemiah gets discouraged on the wall, he can look in the rearview mirror and see that he got workers with a hammer on one side and a weapon on the other side. Is there anybody in this place right now, Impact, that you know we got to get ready to go out and make this city a better place, make this region a better place? We got to go out. It can't be about black versus white, Hispanic versus Italian, but we're one people called by one God, and we got to go tear the wall down. Is there anybody in this place right now that'll shake up the enemy's camp by praising God right now? Open up your mouth in this place and let's rebuild our wall. Everyone standing, I'm done. I'm done.